I hear people talk all the time about their dream camera. And for me, that phrase has just never resonated because as I've evolved as a creative over the years, my interests have grown far beyond just filmmaking. I've really come to love short form content over the last few years, and I love the challenge of creating something in such a small frame in such a small amount of time. But I also love shooting pictures, and then I also love telling stories. I love creating films and short films. And I really think the magic of all of it is being able to take inspiration from a single fleeting moment and tell a story through a beautiful image. So for me, a dream camera would be something that would allow me to do all these things in one and come out looking extremely beautiful and professional. And I know it's asking a lot of a camera, but this is what Nikon has created. It's the Nikon Z R, and it combines all of the advanced features and autofocus from Nikon with Red's beautiful color and image. So to test this camera out, I decided to create a mini documentary with Ryder Biolos. She is wise beyond her years and so talented. She was born into a very well-known surf family, and she will be the first to tell you that she doesn't like surfing, but she loves the community, the culture, and the lifestyle. I just thought her story of growing up, being surrounded by so much surfing, and then her ability to take what she knew and bend it to her own interests and find what she was passionate about was so cool. So that was the story that I wanted to tell. So for the first shoot day, we started at factory, and we were shooting in the cutting room, and it was so crazy because it was pretty dark in there. And the first thing I noticed about the camera was how beautiful and rich the image was. So this camera shoots in a 12-bit R3D NE with log 3G10. To have a red color science in a body so small was insane. And I wanted to get as many shots of Ryder in the factory to show kind of Ryder's world she grew up in. And we only found out that morning that we were actually able to capture a surfboard being shaped. And I had this idea of what I wanted, but the shaper just kind of did his thing and let us know what he was doing. So this is a situation I feel like I always find myself in, having to move super quick to not miss a moment or part of the process. And sometimes you only get one chance, so you have to move fast, which leads me to the menu on this camera, which was very different at first. But by the end of the shoot, it was one of my favorite things about the new body and the new style. It just made me realize I didn't need a ton of buttons, and I actually just having a couple of buttons really sped things up for me. I also started to notice that the rig I had on this camera was kind of unnecessary, because usually when I'm shooting anything on the more professional side, I'll set my camera up with a monitor just for a better view and to evenly distribute out the weight of the camera. But the monitor on the ZR is a 4-inch screen, and the image was so rich, I noticed that I just started looking at the monitor instead of the one I added. So after we finished getting shots of the surfboard being shaped, we moved into Ryder's room, and I had a very clear vision for what I wanted here. The biggest challenge, though, was the lighting and the space. I wanted wide shots, tight shots, everything in between, but the room was very limited with space, and the camera was so small that size and gear and attachments and all of the other usual things that would come with bigger cinema cameras definitely would have made it a lot more challenging. So it was quick and nimble, and it was pretty easy to kind of move around her studio. So we captured all of her painting shots while she was painting the top of the board. And then, so when she flipped it over to the bottom, I was like, we have enough. So like, let's do something fun. I wanted to bring to life a lot of the joy that she found as a kid growing up in the factory. And so we did this with what I like to call unrealistic fun shots. We did some stuff with plexiglass, flashing lights, and just some other fun things. And at one point I was shooting and it was pitch black in the room. And it was the first time that the camera had lost focus and the tracking had gone off, and I realized this autofocus had been so dialed the entire time that the only time I had noticed it actually fall off was when it was almost pitch black in the room, which that was pretty cool. So for the second shoot day, we were down at the beach, and the first thing I noticed was how good this monitor was in daylight. If you look at this thing, it is extremely bright. I don't have to squint. I don't have to hold it close to my face. It's just solid and ready to go. So even later that morning when the sun started coming out and it got brighter outside, the monitor was still bright enough for me to see without having to lean over to squint or to use my hands to kind of block some of the light. I've never experienced a monitor on a camera like that before, so that was really awesome to have. For the beach shoot, Jacob was in the water with the red Komodo X shooting our 2 professional surfers who Ryder paints boards for, and I spent most of the time capturing them on the sand. I just think it's really cool to have a camera like the ZR that can stand with a professional cinema camera like a Red. And the other cool thing is that there's an adapter for the ZR, so you can use lenses from most other major camera brands on this camera as well. I could keep talking about how awesome this camera is, but I will go ahead and let you see for yourself. So we'll roll the tape.
I was definitely born into like the biggest part of surf culture you possibly could be in. I was about 6 when I painted my first surfboard. I was about 7 when I painted my first real surfboard. And then I think around 8 or 9, I painted my first board ever for a real surfer. When you grow up in a surfing community where everybody around you, you look in every direction and there's someone who's insanely good at surfing, it didn't really motivate me to do something that I was bad at when I already had something that I knew I was good at. The world I grew up in is kind of definitely different than a lot of other people's worlds they would grow up in. My dad owns a major surfboard company, and I am an artist painting surfboards for the company. I grew up right next to the surf factory. My mom would have to run a bunch of errands, my dad would be at work like 200 feet away, and I didn't really have any artistic skills at the time, and my uncle was just like, do you want to paint something? Like, if you feel like scribbling, go for it. And I would just scribble on surfboards all day. That kind of turned into like realizing, okay, maybe I'm kind of good at painting. My dad was an artist. He always grew up painting things, painting surfboards. When I was painting boards, he drew it and I would fill it in. So it definitely like motivated me to be better, seeing how good he was. My job is so unique because Lost Surfboard sponsors about 12 athletes. So 1 month I'll have 70 boards, and the next month there will be no event next month. There will be no event coming up, and I'll have no boards to paint. When I end up having to do about like 10 boards a day, I have to really focus and really get in the zone. I take a lot of inspiration from 2 artists. They draw and paint things that look real even though they're not real. So I like painting things that have like combating styles. So if I were to draw like a sea turtle, I probably wouldn't draw it green or blue. I would add some like neon pink in there just because I like to draw things and paint things that don't really make sense. I think what made me realize that I really love doing it is when I got to see people really loving me doing it. I love giving to people. My love language is giving to people. I am a very big giver of a person, and so seeing people's reactions of the stuff that I've painted, even as a 6-year-old, I always knew like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to make people happy. This year I did the art for a surfing charity event where all the proceeds go to charity, and it felt like I was finally being like recognized just for being an artist. It kind of made me realize that like I could be recognized for my own artwork and not just for who I am in the surfing industry, and it kind of made me feel like I had done something for myself. It's cool to see that like people feel confident in my art. I'd love to work for a bigger company as a graphic designer. I'm in school for graphic design in Laguna Beach right now, so I'd love to see where I can take my painting skills. The surfing world is a very small community. Everybody knows each other, and when you get in such a close-knit community, everyone kind of sees each other for who they are. Everybody sees that people are working hard to get to these new places, and everybody has dreams, and you kind of work together to make everybody's dreams possible.